is a bond referendum for those folks who don't know? School districts can go to voters for permission to borrow funds by selling bonds. And if we do this in terms of capital projects, which is what we're looking to do to fix our facilities, then the state will provide some aids, some matching towards that project cost. State aid reduces the full amount that we have to pay back toward debt through local taxes. So that does provide some relief to these costs as we go to the community to ask to go to bond. These are funds that we would not be able to access had we not gone through the referendum process. So why is the district pursuing a bond referendum now? Part of it is, as I stated, to access the state aid that would be available to us for some of the projects that are on our list that we need to address. And this is only available through an approved referendum. And the taxpayers have already paid into this funding. So that's relief that we could get, but we can't get if we just continue to try to chip away at these projects as we go along. And I'm going to show you, we have some pretty extensive projects that we've been working on for years, in addition to the ones that are coming up in the future that we need to address. It's a good planning strategy for the district. Again, we've been squirreling money away to try to attack capital projects in our budget every year. We've been picking those off and we've done extensive work in the district. However, the repairs are outpacing how we can save. So this is a way to be proactive and fix some things that we know need fixing and to do it all at one time. That way we're more prepared for the smaller things that happen along the way and to continue the projects that we've planned in the future. You can utilize the state aid to help us defray the cost of some of this. And finally, the timing to do this in September will allow us to go to bond more quickly, to start reaching out to vendors to get this work done, to go out to bid through the bid process more quickly, as other districts are also going out to make these repairs and to go out to bid. We have a better chance of getting contractors and actually starting this work before next summer because we are in need of some of this work to happen more quickly because of the need to expand and because of some of these major projects that we have that are teetering that we really need to get underway. So here are some three reasons why we need to expand. One is a rising enrollment. Families are moving into the new housing developments that are projected to come online very soon. We are already seeing some of that growth. So that's one of the reasons why we need to expand, is to address some of the growth that's going to happen between Stony Brook and Bear Tavern. Because based on a demographer's report that we did with the help of the township, we know that school is going to see some overpopulation that we cannot accommodate with our current size without drastically changing some of the things that we do. Rising a number of special and support services that we offer in the district. According to the state, in their very archaic way that they measure our space in a school district, right? They just go by just straight square footage, and that includes the hallways, the cafeteria, just any space. And they say, based on your numbers, you should have this much space. Well, we don't do things the same way that we did years ago. We have full day kindergarten. We don't have half day kindergarten. So we have, one class section for each number of students, where in the past we could rotate, 2 class sessions through in the course of the day. We have preschool in all of our buildings. It's not universal preschool, but we've expanded the amount of preschool we offer. Some of those are integrated classes. Some of those are special needs classes. And we brought back a number of our special programming, students with autism, students that are multiply disabled, students that have behavioral dysregulation concerns. These are very small classes that may take up the size of 2 classes because of the needs of the students. So though the state says we have the space, we don't have the space based upon the way we now use our facilities. And then finally, maintaining class size to the way that our district is become accustomed to. And also one of the reasons why we're ranked so highly as we are is because of our special services, because of our class size, because of the way that we perform as a school district. That's going to change if we don't expand.
Can I ask a question, or would you rather wait till the end?
Sure, go ahead.
So just a point of clarification, I'm curious. I know you mentioned the demographer's report. Hopewell Township, the mayor in particular, has been saying that based on that report, that there is plenty of unused capacity at Bear Tavern, that the new developments on Scotch Road aren't going to really impact Bear Tavern because there's so much unused capacity there. Can you talk about
So
that?
there is not,
Doesn't seem right to me, but you know,
yeah,
I know
no,
that's what she's saying to people, but
well, the demographer's report actually says conservatively, there will be about 60 unhoused students, meaning that we are slightly, based on the way we use the building currently right now, we will have unhoused students, meaning there's not enough room. So that's what the report says. So I'm
that's
not
what the
sure.
report says. So the report
Yes,
doesn't match
yes.
up.
And
with
that's a conservative, like sort of middle of the road estimate.
It's interesting.
Okay, so
Was that report paid for by Hopewell Township?
we share the expense on that.
Okay.
Okay.
And
was-
is there a reason the boroughs weren't involved in that activity?
I'm sorry. The borough wasn't involved in the activity of the demographer's report?
Correct.
The
Well,
boroughs weren't
This
asked.
is the first.
The boroughs weren't asked to pay, but the
Right.
boroughs, we did reach out to the borough folks to get information. The demographer reached out to all the municipalities, but because the growth and the development was being done in Hopewell Township, they offered to pay. We didn't seek them out; they actually sought us out and
Yeah,
volunteered.
but the school's funded by all three municipalities. So in the future, I'd like us to be involved in all of those meetings and all of those decisions.
Okay.
Mr. Valencia, so again, when the township came to us and basically we found out about the pilots, right? And we had some conversations with the mayor. We would have had to do a demographer's report anyway to sort of figure out how that's going to affect us, right? Because we have to make sure that we're making the decisions for the school district and the community that we're serving, your community. You would have had to been involved as Bob shared as part of the study. And we did televise, and I had a webinar, and that was all posted, and that information is out there, and we're more than willing to share that information with you. But it was more for me and as a superintendent of schools to determine what is coming, and then how do I react to that? Because I don't manage you all, I manage the school district. And so that was a point of the demographer's report. So I can certainly share the video. We still have it. We still have the slide deck, and I'm sure I can find the video for you to watch it, but it was really for us to see, you know, as a district, for us to see how that was going to affect us moving forward. And we do them on occasion.
I understand. My point is that in formulating that report and manipulating the data and doing, making decisions about how you're gathering information and then processing information, I think that's a conversation that needs to be had collectively by representatives from all of the municipalities, because the outcome isn't going to go over those details, but I think we need to be part of those discussions all the way through.
No, understood. But that was an outside demographer. There was no manipulating on our part of the data. We had an outside person do it that we found that had done it in Princeton. And that person came in and gave us the data on their study that they conducted on our behalf. So it wasn't the township. They didn't find the demographer. We actually reached out to the local district that just had one done, and we used the same outside company that they used. So I believe that the data that we have is good data. Let me just put
We
it that way.
actually, to go one step further, Dr. Treese, we actually didn't select a demographer just because Princeton did it. We actually did a formal RFP, and there were, I believe, 3 or 4 different firms that were
Yes.
selected, and we made the decision on whom to use. The township was not involved in the selection process at all. So I understand, where we're coming from, but we would have done this anyway. We would have done this demographer.
Absolutely.
Anyway, we've done it pretty much every 5 years for the past 20 years or so, done a demographer's report. So I just want you guys to make sure that you understand that it's not a biased report. It was a report done for us. They just happened to pay for part of it.
Absolutely.
And my only question, why I question, is because I find it interesting that the township officials are using that demographer's report to make the case that their development and the people that are going to be living there aren't going to add to the school costs, which obviously, based on the
Which is different
demographer's
than what
report,
we've been
as you
told
just
tonight.
talked about,
So
you just said
if-
is not the case.
if we can go ahead and continue though, let me
Yeah.
just go through this
Sure.
the slide deck for you.
I'm okay.
Because that piece of expansion is only a part of what we're
Yeah,
doing, right, of what we need to do. You know, and at some point we knew that we probably would grow at some point, right? And that's good that we're growing. And you would really have to talk to the township about some of those things, but I just really wanted to show what our thinking is,
Yeah.
right? Based upon our needs. So restoring our schools is the next piece beyond the expansion piece. And what I mean by restoring our schools is, in this picture that I have on this slide, is Timber Lane last year. I think this was last year, right, Bob?
Last summer, yep.
Last summer, this mess. You know, we have a lot of these messes, but these are the unpredicted things that happen, just like in your house, to a building. This is Timber Lane that was built in the 60s, where we had pipes that were damaged underneath this floor. I believe this was a root system that grew into this one as well,
Yep.
Bob.
Yep.
And old pipes. We literally didn't have bathrooms running in these hallways for a good portion of the end of the year. We couldn't touch these until the kids were gone. And we barely got this repaired before schools reopened. As a matter of fact, I think the kids were walking on just concrete until we were able to get to the next break to cover this. This is how bad this was. These are the things that cost tens of thousands of dollars that we don't expect. The board office just had one of these with galvanized pipe as that building approaches 100. We had a fire alarm system on this referendum that we pulled off. We couldn't wait for that. So these are things that we don't plan for that happened that cause us from having to, to be able to do some of the things that we would like to do when we plan. So when folks kind of ask the question, well, why aren't you planning and saving and making sure that you do these things ahead? We are, but these are the kind of things that you can't plan for, right? So replacing obsolete and failing systems is one of the things that makes up a bulk of this referendum, not Bear Tavern and the build on, but this sort of thing, the things that we need to repair that we've kind of kicked the can and we can't anymore, and we can no longer keep taking small bites out of. So making sure that we renovate, we restore aging facilities, replace those obsolete things, and shore up the integrity of the building, also to protect against failing weather systems. And as I say that, I transition to these mobile modular things that we have outside, right? They are permanent structures. Kids are in those as classrooms. That's not ideal when we're watching tornadoes on the news now, when tornadoes are rolling through, when we have extreme weather. The real concerns of an active shooter or somebody coming to your campus, and that may cause a problem. And these buildings have our most vulnerable kids in them. There are preschools, there are autism classes. That's who's out there in these buildings. So that needs to stop and they need to come in. So part of the expansion is that at both Tollgate and Bear Tavern, and I'll go quickly through those in a minute. But also to avoid any catastrophic failures that will keep kids out of school. For example, we just had a well pump that failed at Timber Lane. We barely were able to scrape together the parts from another motor somewhere else that we were lucky they had, because as you all know, the supply chain is very real. And it takes a long time to get pieces of equipment in. We had a boiler we waited for over a year for, it came to us damaged. And then we had to wait an additional months to get in, right? And so this is the kind of thing that we're hoping to avoid by some of these projects that we're predicting, so that we don't have this interruption. So the improvements will touch every school in the district. And I'm going to go through them very quickly. You'll see there's not a lot of sex appeal here. These are a lot of these projects that I was talking about. Central High School. Some of these things that are on here, like the roofs and the HVAC, some of these things were on the previous referendum that we did, and we actually cut in half because people didn't have the temperature for it, right? And these things are still there, and now they're probably doubled in cost, right? Some of them might even be more than that in cost, because nothing has gotten cheaper, it's gotten more expensive, right? So roofing is a big one. Restoring the pavement under the parking lot where that solar roof deck is in the back. Adding accessible bathrooms to the stadium and concession stands. One of the things that was done with the build is, there are bathrooms on the outside of the stadium, but unfortunately, because of the security at some of these games, some of the games locally near us, as a matter of fact, students have bought and people have brought weapons into those stadiums. So now we've completely changed the way we do things, all of the districts. And once you come into a game, you're in there. So the best we have to offer, because the bathrooms are on the outside, are porta potties. Well, if you are not able-bodied, if you're like me and you're a lady and you're not going in there, that's the accessibility of bathrooms that we have, is these porta potties sitting here for our seniors, for anyone who's not able-bodied. And we would like to put a restroom there, and to also extend, and might as well put a concession stand where that we can use that to generate some revenues for these games. There are already like band boosters and sports boosters that sell. That would be a nice addition. While also addressing an issue, very real issue we have. And then the HVAC systems are obsolete. They need replacing in there to improve air quality and energy efficiency. Timber Lane, exterior renovations, again, lots of roofing that needs to be done. Replacing exterior doors to make sure they align with safety standards, making sure they're as bulletproof as we can as possible. I mean, you're never going to have that completely, but do that, as well as also making sure they're fire resistant. Some of the internal doors and external doors aren't up to the code that we would like for this day and age. There's a synthetic turf field behind Timber Lane that we're looking to add to get our students back on campus. We send our students off campus to play sports, which is not covered for weather and is not safe. If something ever happens, they're sitting there because the buses drop them and then they're there. So we want to bring our students back to our campuses where they can be safe. And also that would open up more space for our rec in the community to use because they're overusing the other field, which is costing the district money to replace fields sooner than it should have to be because it's overuse. The HVAC system needs to be updated there. Specifically, there are a gym in there that does not air condition currently. And then finally, replacing a floor in the auxiliary gym to make sure it's safe for students and the community to use. All of our gyms are used by the community rec as well. Bear Tavern, this is where the addition would go. The addition would go behind Bear Tavern, and we are also going to shore that up so that a second floor can be added if needs to be somewhere in the future. The classes rooms will be all equipped with the proper bathroom size for kindergarten and preschool. So if we need to extend those grades, all the rooms are equipped for that because we do require that they have those things to be kindergarten rooms, but they'll be able to receive all grades. Also, some doors, restoring the entranceway canopy to protect people from inclement weather. Roofing, right now it's raining in the media center and all over. I think I talked about the HVAC system in here needs upgrading as well in these various rooms. Replacing the classroom doors to make sure they're up to safety standards. And then also modernizing the cafeteria and the hallways.
I'm sorry, did you say 10 classrooms?
10 classroom addition. 10 classroom addition. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Hopewell Elementary is roof, again, more roof, replacing these exterior doors that need replacing, HVAC improvements, which is, this school has really been limping along with their HVAC for quite some time. And then for internally, including some the doors inside and some prime to align for safety, the classroom doors, again, the fire resistant doors that hold the fire out longer, should we have that, and upgrading the kindergarten classrooms to meet the appropriate size in the size requirements on that one. Stony Brook, roofing again, exterior doors again, and work on a drainage problem we have behind the school that has caused some flooding issues in the building, replacing obsolete HVAC systems there and installing a new chiller. The geothermal system in that building is quite old. The building is approaching 25 years old. This is our newest building. And that system can no longer keep up with the extreme heat conditions and that now to cool properly with the current system. So adding a chiller will help because it's lost some efficiency over the years based upon its age and also just the extreme heat conditions we're experiencing now. Tollgate needs roof. It needs exterior door replacements. It needs paving, widening to add for additional parking. This building, we're looking to build 6 classroom addition to the back and take the little ones that are outside in those portables back in, those module buildings back in, so they're inside, and remove them and create a full access to the building all the way around for our first responders. They've complained many times that they can't access the building all the way around because of those structures that are on the side. And this would give us an opportunity to do that. And for those of you who live in Tollgate, we are moving the gardens and pavers and anything that's in the way of that back into the grass. We'll reclaim those and work as we work through that.
Can I ask about the widening of the driveway?
Sure.
Where's that sort of coming from? Is it coming out of the strip of trees or the big circle? Do you know yet?
It's gonna be widened where the trailers are. So the trailer is gonna be removed.
Okay.
And that'll be,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so it's not the loop, in other words.
The
Okay,
the
No.
loop will be repaved, but
Yes.
not widened.
thank you.
And Katie, just for your information, the district did come to the last planning board
Okay,
and
Thank you.
reviewed that plan, and the planning board has made some comments back to the district, which are, I guess,
wonderful.
back to the, I mean, not major, but some recommendations that are now being reviewed by the Department of Education.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes. Thank you for that. So what will this cost? The estimated cost is about $87 million. The state aid will lower the impact of the to the taxpayer, the local impact, because again, they will reimburse for some of these projects. The ones that they will not, though, however, is the Bear Tavern extension is not covered in that. The roofs, HVAC, a lot of those things will be covered in that. Tollgate, the extending buildings will not be covered in that. We don't think, although Mr. Calavita is going to work hard to try to petition the state to accept those projects as well. But the ones that we believe will be about 25% of what we're proposing is what we think.
Why wouldn't the state accept those part of the projects?
Because according to their numbers, we should have the room to expand. They'd be like, go up to a class size of 35, take down the STEM labs. That's not a problem. They're just saying, this is the square footage you have.
That's what the
You should have
state is
enough
saying?
kids.
That's what the state is saying?
They just measure by pure square footage, right, Bob?
So, yeah, if I might add, so the state does not reimburse or cover costs related to new construction where there are not unhoused students.
Mhm.
Okay, so at Tollgate, we are not anticipating unhoused students, but we're rather adding on or proposing an addition to get rid of the trailer and the buildings on the side, and also to expand space within the building. And if you've been in that building recently, you'll know that there is no conference room. Most conferences are held within the principal's office. And there's limited space regarding for preschool and some of our younger children, and that's been expanding. So that's why that they wouldn't cover that. Now we're going to argue that the additional kindergarten space, because of the lack of the actual rooms that meet the requirements for preschool, that we may be able to get money for that. Typically it's not. Bear Tavern, the same thing. There's only a certain amount of unhoused students. I think it's going to be about 40 to 50 unhoused students projected to be at Bear Tavern. It's not enough for them to give us full amount of money for that project. Because, as Dr. Tree said, they don't consider the space the way we do. So they're saying is, well, you have space, all this square footage adds up to about this number of kids, but they're not taking into account that we're using a lot of those rooms that in the past may have had 22, 23, 24 students, and there might be 6 students in that.
That's right.
Taking into account that. So that's our job, to try to fight with the DOE to say, look, we've added or brought programs back into our district. We should get credit for that. And please consider funding a portion of this addition.
Now, we will continue to fight that fight, but this is us being conservative and saying if they stick to their guns and say that, you have the square footage, figure it out, right? This is what we're giving you, that projection. But we're still working in the background to try to see if we can get those projects also approved. The property tax impact.
I don't want to belabor this, but their perspective then supports Hopewell Township's contention that there's unused capacity there. Figure it out. Right?
I don't try to speculate on why the state does a lot of the things that they do. There's a lot that has changed and the rules haven't changed, right?
Yeah.
I would argue that many of the school districts don't function the way that they calculate anymore. But they haven't changed a lot of the way they do things, as you all know, you face it too, right? They haven't changed the way they calculate things in a long time.
The
So
state considers
that's also statewide. That's a statewide blanket thing, right? And
Right.
I think what you're arguing here, and that I certainly appreciate, and I think a lot of the community would appreciate, is that there's an expectation for a certain quality of education here that has always been in place, and you're just trying to uphold that. And this is what you need to do it, is essentially what you're saying.
absolutely. Absolutely.
bringing those students at Tollgate and Bear Tavern into the building proper has been on our list for years. And this is, you know, given the state of where we are in this country right now, I think it's tantamount right now that you know, our youngest and most fragile learners are not inside our building. And that's,
Yeah.
Another question that arises when I look at some of these improvements is the athletic component of it. Now, I mean, I was an athlete, so I certainly appreciate the value of that. But from sort of a ranking standpoint, how does that play in?
I mean, again, I would say it goes towards safety, and it goes towards keeping our students on campus. Like was mentioned, we transport a lot of our teams off campus because there's limited space on campus to practice. It goes for all of our levels, from varsity to JV to our middle school students. We're shipping them to Twin Pines. We're shipping them to the municipal complex on a daily basis and leaving them there. So a bus would take a group of students, field hockey players, over to the Twin Pines complex, dropping them off and coming back 2.5 hours later after a game or practice. If weather happens, if somebody gets hurt, there's no trainer over there.
The trainers at the campus, right?
So
Yeah,
you know, bringing them back, it will also offer community impact to it. We're speaking with a lot of the folks who use our facilities in the community to seeing if there's support from them on this project. But you know, when we have weather, especially in the spring, when we get out there and look at the weather we've had, you know, this spring with the rain we had in early April, that prohibits our students from getting on safe fields after school. These kind of fields, you could have torrential rain all day, and it breaks, you know, the weather breaks at 2:45 and nothing's canceled. Everything can.
Right, the kids can go back and safely play on the surface. So just really improving the safety and the experience for our student athletes. And you know, again, I don't like shipping them off. That really makes me nervous. Trying to keep them closer to home is important.
Well, it costs money too.
Yes, it does. It does.
That costs money too.
And again,
It's
as far as
probably less expensive than,
So why don't you
Go
keep
ahead, sorry.
going?
Dr. Treese.
So again, the impact is roughly the estimate right now, but this all will depend on once our state aid is approved, is about $500 to $575 annually to the medium mortgage, which we said what was about 500,000, Bob?
Yeah, the average is in all three communities ranges in that range.
Yes. So again, what's the next steps for us? We're in the process of state approval right now of these projects to determine how much of that will be identified as eligible for the state aid we just talked about. The board is currently and is moving forward, wants us to move forward with a ballot question. Here, community outreach, you're part of that community outreach. We plan on making the tour all over, stopping at each school, going to any place we can to answer any questions about this before we get to the September 17th vote. And that community outreach will include a dedicated website, which we'll have online tomorrow. We're having information forums. The first one's on the 16th, where we'll go over this presentation and answer any questions. And then we'll also be advertising how folks can vote, the times, the locations, what they need to do if they want to mail in, and then notifying the community of the important deadlines for voting. So that's the end of my presentation. I'm going to stop sharing and answer any questions Bob and I can answer. We're here.
I actually have one more quick question. So when I moved back, I think it was 2014. Dr. Treese, I believe you were probably around for this, but there was a demographer's report that the previous superintendent went around to the community, and the outcome of that report was that there was the potential, at least there was a rumor that there was the potential to have to close an elementary school because enrollment was headed down. Um, Now we're hearing the opposite, but I think what we have with the report you've just done and the report that was done back in that time frame, 2014, 2015, is some indication of the impact of the growth in the township and how that's going to affect the district. So I'm wondering if you'd be prepared to provide that information, because we seem to have had a complete reversal in the kinetics and the dynamics of our demographics, and I'd like to understand exactly what the cause of that is. And like, we were told one thing 7 to 8 years ago, we're being told a different thing now. And then I'd like to understand what the impact of that is on the cost to the taxpayer, right? Like, if we were going to close an elementary school, I imagine that would have saved us money, and now we're talking about needing a significant amount of more money. And the second part of my question, so I'm asking specifically, is it possible to get that information, a comparison of what the demographer said in the 2014, 2015 time frame to what they've said now, and what the impact of that is on the taxpayers' finances? And, so is that something we can expect, or is that unlikely?
Well, I'm sure that I could probably find the demographer's report and talk about what his projections were back then. A lot has changed since then. One, we didn't have any new developments on the horizon at all. We didn't have COVID, and we've had a number of people that moved into our community because they wanted to get away from the city and that were not shocked by the sticker shock of a Hopewell, right? So we've had growth, and we've brought back programs that weren't there since then. Dr. Smith did do a demographer's report. Our enrollment was shrinking at the time. He was looking at a number of things. I was at the middle school at the time, which was bringing some kids up to 6th grade. There was a little talk about Tollgate at one point that quickly left because the community did not want Tollgate to leave. But my understanding was selling it and maybe building onto Bear and Stony, because the understanding was they are coming at some point and we need the space. However, the community did not want to sell Tollgate. They did not want to close Tollgate, and Tollgate remained. That was my remembrance of it. Am I correct, Bob?
There's something to that. I don't
Yes.
know that Tom was, I don't know whether it was more of a tongue-in-cheek comment that he made about closing it. I don't think he was ever serious about closing it. Like, there was comments around then that instead of refurbishing and doing work to Tollgate, that
Right.
would be cheaper to build on to Bear Tavern
And sell that campus, right?
with a more modern building. Now, a demographer's report that over the years I've been told is that they do a 10-year projection, but it's really only good for 5 years. That demographer report, we did not use the same demographer. His report wasn't as accurate as we would have hoped it to have been back then. Trends.
Well, this is my concern. This is why I made the comments I made at the beginning. This is my concern, because you're making big decisions off of data. And the second part of my question is, are we going to hear in 5 years we need more money because we underestimated the impact of the growth in the township? That's really where this seems to be heading, right? And 5 to 7 years ago, we were hearing a school needed to be closed because of a demographer's report. Now you're saying that wasn't such a great demographer's report. And here we are again making a decision based on a demographer report. And I'm just hoping, we have a good grasp on exactly what the impact is. And we're confident that, we can handle it with this. Or if not, we're projecting the community that this is the first phase of what you think is going to be an end phase. You tell me how many numbers of bonds we're going to have to go out to do. Because what I see is that you say you only need to add capacity to one elementary school. But what's going to happen with Timberlane and the high school as that increased numbers come there? Can they absorb that increase in capacity? Or are we going to look at having to then do a second phase where we're building onto those schools?
So Timberlane and the high school can absorb the number of students that are coming. They carried a lot larger number of students in the past, and they are nowhere near us worrying about a capacity. All right. And
Excellent.
again,
Okay.
the Bear Tavern addition is this much of the referendum, right? The rest of it, most of it,
Okay.
a large portion of it is us fixing the facilities. One of the reasons why we're enjoying the growth that we're seeing now, which is nice, growth is nice, is because we're a very, very sought after district because of the special ed programs mostly that we offer. So we have a larger number of students that with those needs than other school districts around us, because people come to us because we do such a great job. And we're in the top 25 of the state. There are over 600 school districts in the state, and we're in the top 25. So having a building
No question. You
where
guys,
it's
you guys do a
raining,
phenomenal
right,
job.
where it's
Congratulations.
raining inside, where you don't have air conditioning that works, where I might have to close indefinitely because a pump failed, that people are not paying to come to, right? So
Yeah.
most of this is, I need to fix my very failing and ailing systems. And I know I can feel, I can hear that we're upset about the pilot and some other things. That's not something.
Well, I'm not. No. I want to make sure I'm clear. I just want to wish. I think that you, as a school district that serves 3 municipalities, not one, have information at your disposal which would allow you to convey to the community. I think 2 of your municipalities would really appreciate, and I appreciate what you're saying. A lot of this cost is costs you've been putting off, but we should be able to quantify what proportion of it is related to the growth in the township. And that's really what I'm asking, in addition to asking what level of confidence you have in your projections and then the plans you have based off of those projections. And, there's no question you do a phenomenal job with education. I mean, the history of this school district says that. You're continuing that history. We're delighted to have someone of your stature. I'm just trying to make sure we're doing our due diligence here.
Oh, no, I appreciate that. And know that we are as well. So to answer your question about how much is that extension, Bob? About 25 million is that extension, is added?
It's something like that, yeah.
That portion of it is a result of the expanded.
About 25% of the referendum is related to that. And if I might go back to
Okay.
the demographer's report question, the demographer's report is only as accurate as the information we get from the 3 municipalities. So, when the last one was done, there was no talk about a pilot program being done in Hopewell Township. There was talk of the homes that have been put in Pennington. There was some new homes and that you guys put in. I believe it was up near the Cambridge School up in that direction.
Pennington.
And we did know that there was probably going to be something done on Bull Run Road, which was done. But we were able to absorb that because at the time we were dropping students. We were losing 50 to 60 students a year for a number of years. When I first arrived in this district community in 2002, we were over 4,100 students. We dropped to somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,600 students, and now we're starting to climb again. But in that time, we've changed a lot about what we've done. I mean, we've brought in full day kindergarten. We've brought in all those programs that Dr. Trees talked about in the beginning of her presentation. So things have changed. In that time where we weren't growing as much, the demographers take into account, say, let's take Brandon Farms, that all those communities where all those families moved in. They didn't move out. So when their kids grew up, they enjoyed being in the community.
Yeah.
They didn't move.
Right.
So we saw
This is the cycle. This is the Hopewell Township cycle. We should be able to predict it.
Yeah. So, we believe that from what the demographer has said, and what he's learned, that we are pretty accurate, or he's pretty accurate, and we're starting to see some of the growth he predicted. If it all pans out, we'll see at the end of it. Hopewell Township is saying the growth is going to be slower than what he is saying, but that it's coming.
It's coming more quickly than they said, but we'll be able to look for a while.
I think you guys are fine. I think
John, I think Kit's had her hand up for a long time.
Yes, I was going to say, Miss Chandler, I thought you said.
Yeah.
Just a couple things.
Thank you.
Tollgate is only serving Pennington Borough these days, correct? Are there anybody outside of Pennington Borough and Tollgate?
I believe there are a
Yes,
few.
there are a few because it has a special program in there.
Right,
but
but I
for the
think
most part,
Especially
for the most part, the answer is yes.
Okay.
Right, majority, but I think there is some Hopewell Township behind
Sure.
behind
Okay.
Like
Because I know
Penn-
for a while there was some, there was some busing, but for now it's primarily, okay. The
It's
other thing
primarily that.
the other thing I just want to repeat, you repeated it a number of times, but I just want, anybody who's listening to realize, to understand the difference between a bond to replace an HVAC and budgeting to fix an HVAC. If you bond to replace a dying HVAC, you get state aid. If you don't bond and you wait for it to break and then you have to fix it, you pay 100%.
That's right. Thank
And
you.
so when you look at these HVAC systems and the roofs, as you said, it's not sexy. And, pay now or pay later, but if you can, anytime you bond, you do get state aid. And again, it was said a number of times, and I just want people to understand that it's a very, very important distinction and why you go to bond.
And the reason why the number is what it is. So thank you, Ms. Chandler, for that, because, I know Alex didn't make it into the audience, but the board challenged us. We've had a long running list, a spreadsheet of all the projects, all the capital projects that we're trying to pick off one at a time. And when we saw that we needed to expand, and we started talking about the need maybe to go to referendum to do that, the board said, listen, you can't keep doing this with the public. We need to look at all the projects that are going to cause a catastrophic failure if we don't do something, and do it one time. And so I think John asked, are you going to come back again? And that's answer is, well, I don't plan on it because I won't be here. I'm planning on retiring at some point, but I don't enjoy asking now. But I'm not going to. I don't want to keep putting a band-aid and not being honest with the public with what you really need to get these facilities back in order. Because right now we are literally just putting a band-aid on a big dike that has holes all through it. Right? We can't continue to do this because it's just when something does happen, it happens in a way that it doesn't just fail the item. Other damages happen. Like, for example, raining in my library is destroying my collections. Raining in my pack, which is what's happening at the high school, is destroying our equipment in there, our rugs, furniture. We've had things flood, all these things just don't damage the one thing. It causes tens of thousands of dollars of damage beyond the failure. And then there's the wait. There's the wait for something to come so we can replace it. I don't want to have to close schools for something, that we could have avoided. So that's a lot of these projects.
I know Katie Angarone has a question.
Yeah, I just, to that point, no doubt emergency repairs are more expensive. It's why you do asset management planning. And it's why you understand the life cycle of all your assets, the condition, and kind of have an idea of when they need to be replaced. That's a capital plan. Do we have that? Or I heard a spreadsheet, but
we do. It's a large spreadsheet of all the capital plans, the projects, what needs to be fixed right now, next.
Okay.
And then you have that floor I just showed you.
Okay.
And then you have the board office. And then you have this. So we do have that. But you have to realize these are very old buildings.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's tied up in our programs, in our human resources, our faculty. So you can only put so much money aside for capital projects because we have to run the district as well. So yes, we have been doing all of that
I guess my only question would be is to ask you to please look ahead at the next 5 to 10 years and be able to more robustly answer the question of whether or not you're coming back. If you have a capital plan, you should be able to do that.
So if I might add, it's a very, Dr. Treese used the term spreadsheet. It's a spreadsheet, but it's 97 pages across, and it's got soft costs. It's got, a lot of projections in it of when we wanted to do things. The last referendum we did was 35 million, and it should have been 65 million.
That's right.
And at the time, the leadership in place, the Board of Ed and the superintendent, felt that 65 million at that time was too much to go out. We did 35. It was passed overwhelmingly. But those $30 million worth of projects that my folks and my professionals identified as, we really need to do these. And they said, we're gonna push them off. Well, those $30 million worth of projects that we pushed off are probably running 60 million right now.
No doubt.
So we do
We've done them. Hindsight's 2020,
right.
But I just want to my department takes very seriously the capital planning that you're talking about. And we have plans out for 10 years of, when things are going to be coming due. What's the next set of roofs? What's the next set of this? I wanted to do more in 2016. It
And you
didn't
couldn't.
happen. This
Right.
is where we are right now.
Oh,
And,
well, I
and
understand.
probably they can go out 15, 20 years. That's how many projects we've accumulated over the years that we've been able to accomplish, removing trees, paving, replacing HVAC, replacing roofs, changing out our doors, making man traps so that our doors are safe, adding cameras. We've done quite a bit of work and then not to mention some of the wiring and the things that we have to do because everything is technology based now. Right. So we've done a lot of these things. We've done a lot of these things in-house to save the taxpayer money because we do have a plumber. We do have electricians and some of these folks on staff.
Mhm.
However, the projects are outpacing this very, very extensive plan that the district carries and keeps. And will we continue to work on it even after this referendum? Absolutely, because this doesn't cover everything at all.
We've probably
We're
done
doing
$10
those
million
things.
since the 2016 referendum. We've probably done $10 million worth of projects, both
Easily.
in-house and through contractors and other money like that. But, those were $10 million worth of projects that were not part of that original 30, things that just
Yeah.
broke.
Yep.
Let me,
Um,
That just break. Right.
let me ask other council members if they have questions. Nadine, no. Chico, no. Deb, no. Okay.
What's
All right.
the duration of the financing, real quick?
Mm.
So the maximum it's going to be 20 years, but some of the projects are, if they're not 20-year projects, we're going to be bonding. We're not going to be bonding all $87 million at the same time. There's no way we can do all the projects at the same time. So we're going to be bonding in pieces, and we're going to be bonding based upon the useful life of the projects. So maximum, if you're
Okay.
looking at the new additions, they'll probably be 20-year projects. The roofs will probably be in 20-year ranges. Some of the other projects are going to be 15, maybe 10, depending on how the market aligns. So we're hoping that when we go out to bond that, the market might have settled and that interest rates will come down a little bit
Good.
from where they
Okay.
are right now. We can always
Okay.
refinance too. As rates drop,
Yeah.
we are actually required by law to refinance, same as probably you guys are.
Mhm.
But
Superintendent and Bob, thank you.
Oh, it's our pleasure.
We appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to us about your plans.
Anytime, and we definitely know we'll be in communications moving forward.
Okay.